So, Tammy, we will watch history here. We have not seen anything quite like this. And this time cover pretty much sums it up. You see Joe Biden exiting the stage. That will happen Monday. Kamala taking center stage. Tammy.
Yeah. Well, I think that the Democrats, the Democratic Party, they are thrilled because Joe Biden was such a low bar. Anybody would have given them a lift at that point. At the same time, we've got this categorization of him as being selfless and giving it up for democracy. But the New York Post is reporting that, in fact, he was essentially threatened. He mentioned that he was in that one interview that he was essentially pushed out, and that it was a threat based on either how he was portrayed publicly. Some people think the 25th Amendment. But the bottom line is that this was not an agreement, right? It was a harassment dynamic. And I do think that we're going to see something, and the American people have to realize that the people that have given you the last 3.5 years are going to be the same people on that stage: Obama, Pelosi, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden. And if you like what has happened in your life in the last 3.5 years, vote for that team. They're going to speak differently, but it'll be a lie.
Charlie, the New York Times reports that Biden is angry and resentful. I'm not sure if I'd want an angry and resentful hype man taking the stage for me Monday, Charlie.
That's probably smart. You're probably right about that. No, it's really extraordinary what we've seen in the last 4 weeks. It's probably the greatest political operation that we've ever seen pulled off in American history, quite frankly. But the problem for people is that, if you're using all of your political might, all the political magic you have, in order to just preserve your own power, people start to kind of ask themselves, well, why don't you use this political power to stop inflation or seal the border or teach children to read in the cities the Democrats control everything? And the answer is because I think they don't care about that nearly as much as they care about their own political preservation of power.
Marie, CNN had a really interesting piece out this morning, and it's about Kamala Harris and kind of as she took over. And they say the first time her team talked with the Biden pollsters, it was about 3 weeks after she was tapped to take on this role. And I was interested in something they said. When advisors who had been on the call with the Biden pollsters briefed the vice president on the suggestions, she told them she wasn't going to listen to the pollsters herself and would instead trust the instincts she had buried under self-doubt for so long. Some would say trusting her instincts led to a terrible vice presidential pick in Tim Walz over Shapiro.
Well, look, I've never seen my party more united than they are today since probably Barack Obama, his two very successful national presidential elections. Joe Biden ran to be a transitional figure. He said that. Was it difficult for him to recognize that all the polls, the American people were telling us that they did not want Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee? Was that probably a personally difficult process? Sure it was. But the stakes are so high in every presidential election. Joe Biden saw the writing on the wall. No one makes Joe Biden do anything he doesn't want to do. He saw those polls. And look, I think Kamala Harris's instincts have been spot on since that 28 days ago when Joe Biden stepped down as the nominee. That's why every poll, she is ahead of Trump in many of them. She is light years ahead of where Biden was. And I'm looking forward to seeing that unity this week.
One of the interesting parts that the New York Times reported on, Emily, was the fact that in 10 days after that disastrous debate performance, Biden managed to call 10 congressional Democrats. Kamala Harris in 10 hours called 100 and locked up the nomination in 48 hours. So, for all that aside, Kamala Harris and how bad her policies are, she did a pretty brilliant thing in 48 hours to place herself at the top of this ticket.
Well, and keep in mind that the first time she appeared with her vice presidential candidate selectee, Tim Walz, they never mentioned Biden at all. At the end of the day, he has now fulfilled his useful duty. And I think it's fitting when you dive into coverage about him that you see, to Charlie's point, it has been about power all along. He never made any secret when he was serving as vice president that he wanted to be president. In fact, a long time before that, right before the plagiarism during his campaign, there has been decades of this. And it covers how his listening to the people has now changed his economic policies. Well, insiders say, No, that's not true at all. He represented Delaware, corporate-friendly Delaware for decades. This is the same person that has never made any secret. He wanted to seek that highest office in the land simply to get the chip off of his shoulder of what he perceived happened to his dad in a working-class family. And at the end of the day, he really wasn't, I think, serving the interests of the American people. Now resigning himself to being that bridge that has now propped up Kamala Harris to this position. I think he'll go out tonight, whoever wrote his speech, or tomorrow night, gracefully, but inside, oh, he is still fuming.
Yeah, the beginning of the end of a 49-year political career. We will watch it tomorrow.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.